Welcome to episode 7 of the 99 Forever podcast. I'm Eric Friesen, and joining me today is Sam Hargreaves, who also goes by the Oiler Brit on Twitter. Sam, how's it going today?
I'm all right, bud. How is everybody?
We're doing pretty good. It's cold out here, but other than that, the Oilers are winning lately, so it kind of makes the winter not feel as bad.
I know it's we've got a bit of momentum, and then we have to head off to the All-Star break. It's kind of sucks.
Yeah, it's probably the worst time for them to get a 10-day break with how great they've been playing lately. But I'm glad to have you on the show. It's always fun talking hockey with you, and I know you're not just an Oilers fan. You're also a big supporter of the Sheffield Steelers. So maybe that's a good place to start. Can we just talk about the Steelers? Is that where your love for the game really began?
It is, Eric. Yeah, it's that's where it all started out. 3-4 years old. Going to watch Steelers games in the early days. Seeing my favourite player, Tommy Plummer, who was called the great team. And Plummer and there's many others.
Oh, for sure. And when did you first get into hockey? Do you kind of remember around an age or a time that you really started to take an interest in the sport?
Well, Steelers were formed in 1991, which is, I think they were formed, were it May? I forget, I've got to remember the timings. I think it was May 1991, I'm not sure. I was born, obviously, in December 1990. So, but a bit of history, Eric, is they built the Sheffield Arena in Sheffield where we play, and they built it for I think it was the World Student Games in Sheffield. Obviously, that happened, and then they needed a new primary tenant, obviously, because there weren't much use. We're just trying to figure out where to use it. And then that's the Steelers' idea was created of our organisation. I believe ones that did that saw that Sheffield had a lot of potential because Sheffield historically has been it's like we called Steel City. There's a lot of similarities between us and Pittsburgh, believe it or not. Because they have they've got a team called that as well. So we're very blue collar, very industrial. So they thought that it would go down well. An hockey team, it's great, would go down well in Sheffield.
It's very interesting because, Edmonton's also a very hardworking blue-collar city, so there are some similarities there for sure. And soccer has to be the biggest sport in the UK, but where does hockey rank in terms of popularity?
It's popular in select markets. We used to have a lot more teams than we do now, but a lot of them obviously... back in the old Super League days where we used to, that's the predecessor league to what we have now, the Elite Hockey League. So we used to have more teams. We used to have, believe it or not, we used to have teams in London, Ayr in Scotland, Durham Wasps used to have. Another interesting thing, SPR might know about. We used to have a team called in London. Yeah, Sean, yeah. Used to have a team called London Knights that played in London.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Yeah, so, there's been a couple of teams, London Racers. But yeah, they've been really good. Yeah, it's popular in select market. The main areas, Eric, I've always told Oilers fans and people in Canada when I've met them are Sheffield's a big hockey market, probably the biggest. Nottingham, where they have Nottingham Panthers, Cardiff Devils in Cardiff in Wales, and Belfast. Belfast has really took to hockey as well. It's been because it's given the history there. It's been good sort of unite. It's sort of really united the city. Given obviously historic. So it's really sort of brought the, like Belfast and people from like both communities there together. So I can't stress this point to you and anyone who might listen. It's not new. It's been very popular. It's been very popular. It's had a slot on Grandstand years ago on the BBC, where it alongside association football. Nationally, it's been on Sky Sports. It's had a Sky Sports team. It was on that with hosted games. It's people know of it. It's just getting the word around. It's probably lack of exposure these days, but it has been. It's probably bigger. It was bigger then than it probably had more exposure then than it does probably today for some various reasons to talk about.
Definitely. And, the European pro leagues that I've learned the most about over the years are in Sweden, Finland, and Czech Republic, because there's so many NHL players that come out of those countries. But for someone like myself who doesn't know a lot about the elite league in the UK, can you tell me a little about how successful the Steelers have been throughout their history, and who are their main rivals?
Who are Steelers' main rivals? Nottingham Panthers is the main one. It is a big one. It's not as big as it used to be as it doesn't have the same sort of, I don't know, it probably still does, but it's not, it sort of drifted off a little bit in the last, 4 or 5 years, but it's still big. It still sells both the arena in Nottingham out, and it still sells Sheffield, the arena in Sheffield out. They're all sellouts. But this year's been it's been strange, the one this year, because we've always played Nottingham Panthers on Boxing Day, 26th of December. It's always been a big holiday game, a big blockbuster holiday game. Well, now this year they played Manchester Storm on Boxing Day, and there's been more a rivalry between us and Manchester Storm. Manchester Storm used to be crazy. Crazy. It used to be a lot bigger. They used to play in a lot bigger building in Manchester than years ago. We're talking I think they did. I don't know how regular they did it, but they used to play out of the MAN Arena, which is a big 19,000 seat arena in Manchester, and they once drew a 17,245 attendance there, I think, on a couple of occasions, which is like an NHL crowd, really.
Yeah, it's pretty close.
Yeah.
Since the 90s to now, how successful has the team been, and what kind of season are they having this year?
This year, we're doing well. We're top at league. Had a 4-point weekend. We beat Cardiff, which has had our number for the last 4 years. Who's been as close as in the league. We weren't even at the races last couple of years. We've not won the league. But in 1990s, Eric, Steelers were the big team. We basically ruled British ice hockey, to not sound. We won a lot. We won a lot of. We had a great team. We had great teams in 90s and 2000s. A lot of memorable moments at the arena. Anything else you want? Anything else?
Yeah, well, I think you were telling me earlier about a Grand Slam. I think they won back a while ago. Can you just maybe expand on that a little bit?
Yeah, Grand Slam. We won the Grand Slam in 2001. That's four trophies. Grand Slam essentially means you win every domestic trophy in hockey that's available. So in 2001, we won the league, we won the playoffs, we won the Challenge Cup, and we won what was called the Benson Hedges Cup. We won 3 trophies in 1996. I believe. The difference was, I did mention to you about Nottingham winning the league. Well, Nottingham Panthers won the league the first time in about 50 years or so. They called that a Grand Slam. It was actually 3 trophies. What they didn't mention when they said they won Grand Slam is they didn't win the conference. That was Belfast won it. So technically it wasn't a Grand Slam, but I don't know. They won league, so they want to make a big thing about it.
No, that's interesting because one of the things that I've really enjoyed talking to you about throughout our interactions on Twitter is just kind of finding out a little more about what hockey's like in England. And you've taught me a lot about the Steelers, but we haven't really had a chance to go too in depth on their history. Other than, I think there was a big brawl back in the early 90s you sent me a video of. So
Tim Films one, that went
so it's just kind of nice to kind of learn a little bit more about a league that maybe doesn't get as much exposure here in Canada.
No, I don't. Another thing, an interesting point. I did mention it in not this past draft, but the one draft before was the first time we had a British born and trained player be drafted to an NA, be drafted at the Coyotes, draft. Right? Coyotes, yeah, Liam Kirk, who's now at Peterborough in the OHL.
Yeah, I couldn't remember the kid's name, but I remember that the Coyotes were the team that drafted him.
Yeah. He seems to be doing well. He's the first English-born and trained player to be drafted to the NHL. There actually was one before that, and he also played for the Sheffield Steelers, and he also was drafted by Edmonton Oilers, called Tony Hand. And he could have made it, and he was an outstanding player.
I remember hearing about him on Edmonton radio over the past year or two, and if I'm not mistaken, he put up Wayne Gretzky-like numbers in England. And once he came over to Edmonton, unfortunately, he got homesick, if I remember the story correctly, and he just wasn't going to stay there and wanted to go back home. And I respect him for going back. And I think you can correct me if I'm wrong, but I think he played into his 40s or something like that.
I think he finished his career at Manchester Phoenix, which I believe he played. I think that was he played for a long time. He did manage after that, but he played. He played on the line with. Some people. He played on the line with Rick Cranston and Ken Priestley at Steelers. I could be correct. I was young at the time, but. Outstanding player, probably best player that we've had in this country. He was brilliant. My memories are a bit blurred because I was only young at the time, so I don't obviously can't tell specifics, but I remember seeing him outstanding player.
Well, I can tell you this, you probably know more about the Elite League in the UK more than anyone else I know on social media or any Oiler fans I connect with. So I really appreciate you kind of giving us some insight on the league. And just to wrap up on the Steelers, a lot of Oilers...
They missed just one more thing. I did mention to you, I did go and see Tommy Plummer, but also to mention is we had... my dad used to run the ice rink where the hockey academies used to come out of in Sheffield.
Oh, nice.
There used to be it was assistant manager for an ice rink in Sheffield where they used to be, and where all hockey academies used to be based out of Sheffield, which is where we sort of produced. I think Cardiff's goalie was one of them as well, and he used to run that. And I used to know I used to meet him and know loads of them, and know all players. Mike Blaisdell, who was probably our Glen Saver, won very successful. I once walked up to him and I said, I once talking to him and I would ask him about this Mike Blaisdell because my dad's old. And he was talking to me, and then Augusta says, "Oh, I've just asked it about Mike Blaisdell." And he says, "That were Mike Blaisdell." and I'm asking him about questions about who Mark Blaisdell is, and he went, my friend at the time, Carl, he used to live next door to two Steelers ex-coaches, including Mike. So we used to get to all games, and we used to go, get to, signed hockey sticks and
that's cool,
and all that. Okay.
Yeah, that's kind of that's nice. You had a little connection to the team there growing up. That's awesome.
Oh yeah, it is. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. It's
so just one last one on the Steelers for you. It's kind of a two-part question. I think a lot of Oilers fans were really impressed with the energetic crowd during the exhibition game they played in Cologne, Germany last season. Give me a bit of an idea. What's the atmosphere like at Steelers games, and how often are you able to make it out and see them play?
I can go every weekend. We tend to play on a Saturday and a Sunday. When we do, it's either like we play one away, one home. We can sometimes play week. They like to sort of reduce ticket prices to try and get more fans into it, because sometimes if it's like a lower team that's in the league, sometimes the crowd can, people think, oh well, it's a win and that, and they don't tend to really. But yeah, I get to go. I can go to as many. I did sort of fall out with them last year, but because they were really shit. I'm sorry to use my language. Last year, because we basically had an head coach that just I think it was just commitment issues last year, to put a short story on it, and we just poor recruitment, head coach that wasn't committed here long term, and wasn't staying, so it was bad.
So you think that really affected the fans as well in the crowd? Because it was a very lively crowd we noticed in Germany. I know a lot of Oilers fans have agreed with me on that just seeing how the fans were chanting along throughout the game and saying Draisaitl's name when they were doing the player introductions at the start. I just thought that was so awesome to see. Yeah. And I was just wondering if that was similar from Germany to how the crowd is in England.
Right. Yeah, well, how it works is it's sort of opposite to Oilers, because I don't know if this is what I'm going to probably ask you about in a minute, Eric. We can be like quiet before a game, and then when we have what's called a blackout, where they turn all lights out in arena, and then they play music and pump everything up and that. Sometimes it can go a bit sort of they do sort of chant, but we sort of make noise during the game. Whereas when I watch a game, Rogers now, I can notice it can go a bit flat during a game. I don't know if that's true or not, but being there live, but it can be a bit quiet during the game when people are watching. Whereas we sort of make noise during the game, like say, let's go Steelers and all that. And we have what's called Rock the Block, where they sort of bring drums in and, make noise and like bang a drum, let's go Steelers. Yeah, like that. So we sort of make noise during the game, and it's a brilliant atmosphere. I posted a video on Twitter. Brilliant atmosphere. It's a brilliant atmosphere when it gets going. There's no place like it. It's a bit like Rexall used to be, Edmondson, so to speak. I don't know if Gloss has sort of come off there, but I've got a question for you, Eric.
Yeah, for sure.
In your opinion, how does Rexall compare to Rogers' place?
One thing that's I think people have noticed is that it's a brand new building, obviously, and state of the art, arguably the best arena in the NHL. I think just because of the history at the old arena, and maybe the fact that the seats were over top of the ice a little more, there was just maybe a little more energy in the building. But also I think a big factor is that with the new building, there hasn't been a lot of success in it yet. in fairness, they went quite a few years without playoffs in the old building too. But we've only had one playoff run in the inaugural season at Rogers Place, and hopefully they'll be back this year. It's just maybe taken some time. It's got an unfortunate nickname as the library on some nights, and that largely has to do with it. The team on the ice hasn't given the fans much to cheer about. But I've been there 7 times now, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, I just attended my 7th game there last week on my birthday, so that was a real fun experience. And when that team gets going and the Oilers are winning, it's a lively building, and the fans were really going the other night. So I think that once they get back into the playoffs, you'll see the atmosphere really pick up with the fans. I'm sure you can remember, even from watching on TV, you could tell during the 2017 playoffs how amped up the fans were to see the team back in. When Oscar Klefbom scored that first goal of the playoffs, their first playoff goal in 11 years, the building went off. It was completely electric, and I have no doubt it'll be the same if they get in this year.
Yeah, I don't know if when I used to watch when they used to play at Rexall, whether it was sort of that, like old buildings, they can be like very like grime and very gritty and very sort of raw, and there was that real, I don't know. Sometimes, I mean, it happens over here. It happens over here, like in soccer and in football. Like when they move stadiums. Like I don't know if like Arsenal. I don't know if they've ever been the same when Arsenal move stadiums, or that's why they've sort of wanted to protect the Liverpool one and not wanted to move from where they play, Liverpool, Anfield, because they want to sort of protect I don't know, it's just like, you had a lot of memories in Rexall, it's where you won all the cups and everything, whereas it's sort of new. Yeah, it's great, Rogers, and it's brilliant place, and it's got everything, but it's sort of, I don't know, it just seems a bit bigger. I don't know.
It is bigger. I think the old building had 16,800 seats, and I believe the new one has 18,600 seats. So, it's almost 2,000 more seats, if I'm not mistaken. And it's like you said, the memories obviously do hold a special place in the fans' heart, and I think that's why Rexall Place was and still is so meaningful to a lot of fans, because that's where they won 4 cups. It's just a historic building, and I was born towards the end of the dynasty, but even all the experiences I had there in my teens and in my 20s, I mean, I love those memories. I mean, that building will always be a very important place to me.
Yeah, it will, because I think I sent you a clip of that game, where it says Oilers fans pissed, and when a goal got ruled out against LA, and they were all getting off the seats and shouting BS, and that really, I used to sense that, and used to think, God, I love the passion of those fans, and I love everybody's so passionate. And I just thought it was brilliant, and I can really get behind people that just love the team like that, so much like that. And it's everything to them.
The Oilers are, in my opinion, a top 3 fan base in the league when it comes to passion. There's absolutely no question about it. Wayne Gretzky even says in his 30 for 30 documentary, King's Ransom, he was trying to describe to Peter Berg, the director, what the Oilers mean to Edmontonians. And I believe he said, I'm not going to have the exact words here, but I believe just to paraphrase, he said, do you know when the Olympics are on and that's all people can talk about for those 2 weeks is the Olympics? That's what the Oilers are in Edmonton 12 months out of the year.
I can definitely relate to that.
It doesn't matter if it's October 1st on the opening game of the year, if it's in January, if it's in April during the playoffs, or if it's in the middle of July. It could be the middle of summer in the off season, and the Oilers are still the biggest sports topic in town. Like they are the absolute kings of that city. So the passion is absolutely there, and you're right. I mean, that crowd, I mean, they care about their team so much, and hopefully the Oilers are going to reward the fans with like we talked about, making the playoffs this year.
Well, yeah, this is one I know we go on to just to sort of compare. So I think that's the Steelers have always had a really weird relationship with fans. I don't, sometimes it's like, like when I go to a game, it sometimes puts me off where they always like say, oh, buy a 50-50. I don't know if you have 50-50 draw ticket.
They're quite big.
Yeah. And they're
bonus quite high for the 50-50 in Edmonton.
Yeah. I know. I won't mind winning the one that Winter Classic that they have. But yeah, they always sort of. But like you go there and they sort of push in, like buy a 50-50 and buy this. And I understand they've got a job to do. I understand they've got, they obviously have to get money somehow from raise money somehow. But sometimes it can. I don't know. They do. Like Q&As with like Tony Smith, who's owner, and Q&As with players and do stuff. I just sometimes, there's only one time I've ever seen where and do something for like the fans that's free of charge. That's not, well, it wasn't free, but it was sort of a day they put on for fans. Was the when they did the 20th anniversary, when we had the 20th anniversary celebrations, they did like a youth hockey game. Then they did a Legends game where all past players came back, and then they had an exhibition game before season. So it was like a full day with the hockey, and we all loved it. But that's the only time I can sometimes think that sometimes taking for granted in Sheffield. But I suppose, but Oilers fan, I sometimes feel a bit same about Oilers. Cates and Nicholson, that they sometimes think they're just going to turn up. It can sometimes make management complacent that they're in a passionate hockey market, and those fans will just turn up no matter what other teams performing on ice and they'll just pay. It's a lot of money I've heard in to go to a game in Edmonton.
Yeah, you know what? The tickets range in price. You can sometimes find good deals online, but when the team is doing well, they're obviously going to go up. And there's been a lot of times when the team is struggling, and you can find cheaper tickets online. So it really can go up and down. If we could just dive into a little more Oiler talk now, and just kind of tie it back into you as a hockey fan. When did you become an Oilers fan, and what are your earliest memories of the team?
My earliest memories of the team. My dad's a Detroit Red Wings fan. He always has been. We used to get an NHL game, it was on TV on 5, a TV channel over here, like a week after it was played. And then we went to Premier Sports that played not Premier Sports, that's TV now. ESPN America, they were on there, and then Premier Sports got the NHL game. But we back when we used to have ESPN, I used to watch a lot more. I used to watch Oilers games. I used play. We used to have I used to watch Sheldon Story, Ryan Smith, I believe. That I even saw a game with Taylor Hall and Conor McDavid on the same line before that. Obviously, that's a different stuff. that was one of the first things that I got jumped on when I first went on Oilers Twitter when I was new to it, and I didn't realise how raw that actually were about a year and a half ago.
So when the Oilers went to the Stanley Cup final in 2006, were you following the team then, or did you come in after?
I didn't. Do you know? I don't. For a lot of time, I didn't. I weren't able to watch. I weren't able to watch. How it used to be, Eric, for me was I used to get NHL games sent. I had like the channel that all games were on. So I used to be more like a general. I used to have like a general fan. But then it went to ES. But then I got the NHL games where I could watch any game I like. Well, I always wanted a team in Canada because I've always loved Canada. It's great, one of the best countries in the world. I love people there, always been friendly. I've liked it in general. So what happened? I always used to watch Edmonton because I don't know. I saw the King's Rams, the 30 for 30 documentary with Gretzky, and I've always loved. I was always a big fan of Glenn. I always liked Glenn Saver. Gretzky were always a favourite. Were always a big favourite of mine. I've got a picture, his autograph on my wall here in my living room. It's in an LA jersey, obviously, so it's signed. But anyway, and I've always, I like Messier. Grant Fuhrer was always, but I kind of watched it back because I didn't see it all live. I kind of watched a lot of those games back, and they were like invincible then. And I saw the 30 for 30, and when Peter Pocklington were saying on that 30 for 30, it's a religion in Edmonton, and I can
Absolutely.
I'm a Liverpool fan, but I can really relate to the Oilers DNA and the Oilers story and sort of lives of people in Edmonton, because I know that fear, because I know the feeling here. It's like a real, you have a real. One of the things that I've noticed is there's a real sense of belonging. On you feel part of something, and you're with people, and you're with people that are as passionate as you. I've always been a passionate hockey fan, so they're really welcoming. The Oilers fans, to take someone who's in UK and make them as part of Oilers Twitter, it's just and as part of it, and put me, and they really, I've learned so much about hockey itself. How I see the game and how I know. I didn't even know, Eric, what gap control was until I heard it from come out of Sean SBR's mouth and Dirtbag Donna onto it. I didn't even know what it was.
I mean, we learn all these terms along the way, right? There's a lot of hockey lingo that you kind of pick up as you go, and there's a lot of interesting things you said there, because my dad was also is also a Detroit Red Wings fan first, and he's also an Oilers fan too, and kind of introduced me to the Oilers and Gretzky in the 90s when I was a kid, and that's sort of how I became an Oilers fan. Obviously, Gretzky's my biggest hero, so it was an easy choice to go with the team that he had his greatest success with. And I mean, that documentary, I'm glad you saw it too. It came out around 2009, I think fall of 2009. It was actually the first. It was the first film ESPN ever did in their 30 for 30 series, I believe. So it's really cool that they kicked it off with a hockey one, considering hockey isn't their main priority on the network. But just kind of transitioning out a little more into the current state of the team, the Oilers are now on a 6-1-1 run and have briefly launched into first place in the division the other day, although the Canucks later won that night, which pushed them down to second place.
Don't tell me about Canucks. I used to date a Canucks fan.
Oh, okay.
I used to know one anyway.
Well, there you go.
Yeah. Oh, God.
But the Oilers are, yeah, me too. But the Oilers are now in second place, only 1 point behind going into the All-Star break. And I think if you would have told Oilers fans back in September before the season that they would be sitting 1 point out of first place at the All-Star break, everyone would have taken it. I mean, this is a dream scenario based on the last 2 seasons, or if you want to go even further back, 12 of the last 13 seasons missing the playoffs. So to be in this position where they've now set themselves up to make a really good run at getting into the postseason, it's just been fantastic. What do you think the reason is for the Oilers' recent success the last few weeks?
I think Dave Tippett's restored some structure into the team. Defense. I like Dave Tippett. Big fan of his. I like what he did in Phoenix, and think. He always had a real good, hard-working team that, when he were at the Coyotes, and, they were good, so much to my detriment, they used to be Oilers. They were really good. I like how Ethan Bears developed and really surprised me. And we've sort of got, I also like how we're getting some stability on the lines, because, we heard story about McClellan when he had, he used to get blender out, and nobody knew, there was no stability on those lines.
Yeah, it's hard to gain chemistry when you're getting new line mates every game, or even switching line mates during the game even. So, yeah, I think that's been big.
Well, even that happened with Hitchcock. With Hitchcock last year, and they were like, I used to watch Oilers, and they were. I'm thinking, oh, well, Draisaitl were on that line, and then he's now on. Who's playing with you? Who's playing on what line here? I don't, because he used to change like 2-3 times in a game, and I'm like, you've got to have some chemistry. You've got to have some chemistry on your lines and some stuff. Yeah, if it don't work after 5 games, it's got to change, or don't look like Nuge and Neil. It's not quite gel. That didn't quite gel for them, but so they've changed it. I've always, the strength of that Oilers team is the centres. You got McDavid on one line, McDavid, Dry, and Nuge. All it is it's about building, they've just got to find some, complements and wingers for them. That's all it was. That's all it's really. It's just about building and just trying to get some, chemistry. Just I always say, getting like a shooter on Dry's line. And that it's got Nuge is on that, so I like that second line, Nuge and Dry and Yamamoto. Yamamoto's been I've been really surprised by him, because before he didn't shoot. He was always looking for the to make the pass to McDavid. It was like he didn't have much confidence.
Well, that's been their best line during this hot streak in January. Ever since they called up Yamamoto before the New Year's Eve game, the Oilers have had 2 solid lines, because I think the theory is that Connor McDavid can make it work with anyone. He's so talented that you can put almost any player with him and he'll still find a way to get his points. But the fact that they've had Draisaitl and Nugent Hopkins and Yamamoto together, all 3 skilled players who seem to have been building some quick chemistry together, it's been so successful for the team. And that's kind of leads me into my next question. We all know McDavid and Draisaitl are the most dangerous duo in the league, and we still get to see them together on the power play. But how do you feel about separating those two? Do you think it's smart to keep them apart and keep just 2 lines going, or do you think we'll eventually see McDavid and Draisaitl back on the same unit this season?
I'm going to have an opinion. I've got an opinion on this. I'm going to surprise you, Eric. I was one of those that thinks that I would like to see them both as 2 centres on their own line. I don't
think you're alone in that. I think a lot of people actually like that. So
I'm well aware that they're a formidable duo, and they can get they're really good at putting goals in, at scoring, and they're fantastic. And if you need that extra bit of firepower, in a game, to get a goal in final in the third period, that's okay. That okay, do it at times. But I'll tell you what, there's one thing, but I'm a bit concerned about their goals against. The goals against. Sometimes it's confusion. Who's a centre and who's dropped? And who's who plays as a centre and who's the winger. And I've noticed just a little bit of confusion between the goals against between those two. I'm also a bit. What's your opinion on your view, Eric, on Neil, particularly 5-on-5?
You know what? I'm not as concerned about Neil's 5-on-5 scoring or lack thereof, because he's got 19 goals this year, and he's doing most of his damage right around the net, which is fine. He and Chason can kind of trade off as that net front presence on the power play, and he's had success there, banging in rebounds and getting the puck at the side of the net. So I don't have a problem. I mean, realistically, if he didn't get another goal for the rest of the season, it would still be a 19-goal season. That's a successful season.
Brilliant. Yeah.
But because he had such a great start, the expectation is that he was going to get 30 goals. Now, I'm not sure if he'll get there exactly, but I think there's still the potential that he could score 7 or 8 more goals this year and get in the high 20s. So I wouldn't be surprised to see him get there, because a lot of people weren't sure how many he would get. There was varying opinions. Can he get 15 still, or is he maybe going to be a 25 goal scorer? So I think just to kind of seeing how good he can be, he's got 2 hat tricks already in 1 4-goal game. So this is a guy who can score in bunches, and I wouldn't be surprised if he has another outburst later in the season.
Yeah, it's just getting him into positions, like particularly in front of the net. Neil does what Lucic last season and before was incapable of doing. And I said off Mega Fred during games, get in front of just park your arse in front of the net, Lucic, and just stay there and don't go to screen the goal there and get sort of and if one comes in, get if it gets in, then get it in, then put it in there. But big strong power forward like that, and it would go into the side, and it would just stay in front of the. I don't know what he would. I couldn't
agree more. I think that he wasn't using his abilities to the best of his capability. I mean, realistically, that's what he should be doing. He should be the net front presence on the power play, and he's so big that you'd think it's hard for even the biggest defenseman to move him. But he just wasn't cashing in anything, and James Neal has been everything and more that we wanted Lucic to be, and I think that's been a big reason for the Oilers' success on the power play. Obviously, having such skilled players like McDavid, Draisaitl, and Nugent Hopkins is a huge help. But it's you have to have that guy in the front of the net who can clean up the garbage, and right now the Oilers have 2 in Chiasson and Neal. So
I've been sort of impressed by these sort of. I mean, we didn't have just our Hollands managed it. I weren't so sure about Holland to begin with, because I know about his record, particularly that blue line in Detroit. And I know they've got no trade clause. I weren't sure about Holland, but it's you can't deny his record. But he's done. I think he's done good at getting like complimentary, like low, like cheap, like sort of cheaper contracts rather than going. But just getting those sorts of compliment. Like Sheahan was brilliant. Did fantastic with. Overnight, and particularly behind that net on that goal, and during Coyotes game, they've done some well, but we ain't got much space. But I think it's just sort of managed a bit. I don't know. It's maybe we've got a lot of depth on D if we want to go to get a pack. If we want to. We've got depth and we've got assets down in Bakersfield. I'm really excited to see how Bouchard does and what Broberg will be like, and Caleb Jones. I still think there's a lot more. What's your opinion on regards to expansion draft, Eric? Would you go with because I think you can protect 4D? Is it 4D or 8 forwards?
Yeah, you can either do 7 forwards, 3 defensemen, and 1 goalie, or 4 forwards, 4 defensemen, and a goalie. I think that is a lot of teams are worried about losing a top 4 defenseman, which are such valuable assets. They'd much rather lose a 3rd or 4th line forward than one of their best defensemen. So teams will protect one of those guys. As for the upcoming expansion draft, we're still a little over a year away, about a year and a half away from that. There's a chance the Oilers do lose Caleb Jones. I mean, you'd probably rather prefer to lose a guy like Jujhar Khaira, but they're going to have a bunch of young defensemen who'll be exempt. Like Bouchard won't need to be protected. They will obviously protect Clefbaum and Nurse, and then you have to think, well, maybe they'll use another spot on Jones if they do choose to go that route. The other thing is Adam Larson is a free agent that summer, so there's always the thought that you leave him unprotected, and if you think you can't sign him and he ends up going to Vegas, well, he'll be a free agent anyway and he could leave. So I doubt that they would take him. But there's always those options. I guess we'll have to see how that plays out in the next year.
We're gonna have to obviously make room, obviously, because for because we know we have new people coming from.
Oh yeah,
I did hear if we went the other route that it would be either Yamo or Tyler Benson that would be left exposed. I don't know how correct that was.
No. I don't think that they would. They probably wouldn't like to leave those guys exposed. They both will be on their second contract, I believe, by then. So they'll both need to be protected. But at the same time, Yamamoto, if he keeps playing the way he's playing, is a guy that you absolutely have to protect. He's a former first round pick anyway. Even if he hadn't had this recent success, I'd still be highly considered saving him, just because you don't know what he's going to turn out as he gets into his 20s more. He's still only 21. But there's going to be some interesting developments when Seattle comes into the league. I'm somewhat curious to see how it'll be, but at the same time, you hate to see a new team come in and take a player out of off your team. But it'll be interesting because the Coyotes will be moving over to the Central Division, and Seattle will be coming in. So we'll see if Seattle will be as strong as Vegas or not. And if the Coyotes keep trending up and they're a really good team, well, I don't think Oiler fans will be too sad to see the Coyotes out of the division. That'll actually probably benefit.
I don't think they'll want to. I don't think they'll want to be as generous as they did with Vegas, because Vegas got money.
I don't think a lot of teams were prepared for that, and they really took advantage of their opportunity and obviously made it to the finals in their first year, so kudos to them. We've been talking a lot about power play goals and just goals in general, the way the Oilers are scoring, and I think while we're on the topic of goals, we can't forget to mention the goal McDavid had in his hometown of Toronto recently.
Oh my goodness.
Were you able to watch that game, or did you see the highlight after, and what was your immediate reaction to that goal?
Absolutely incredible. This debate that I've heard for last year about how it's Matthews number, how it's comparing Matthews to McDavid is totally laughable. It's not even it's not even close. The thing is, this is the thing that I always have about with sort of Toronto. I don't know if it's like the Mayweather and Pacquiao conversation where you're trying to make someone as good. They're trying to put them on level, like their version of McDavid. But it's just so. I mean, for goodness, it's not that. They're not level. He's got. I mean, everything. He can just. You can just have him down in. You can have him in your own zone, back, and he can just take the puck, bang, 2 seconds, he's down ice. And it's in there. You cannot, and you've got to watch him all over the ice, because his speed can just go it could go from there to there inside 10 seconds, and it be in there. It's good. It's so hard for a defenseman to. How he turned Riley over and made him. Even Drew Doughty and there's nobody that can compete. There's nobody that's on the same level as him. I think ultimately, eventually, Eric, he could, get it. I mean, obviously he's early, he's young, but eventually he could get near Wayne Gretzky as far as the play, or a Mario Lemieux, where he could finish up almost close to that. Crosby's the nearest I could probably say to
for points. Like it's are you just talking about like career scoring points, or in terms of just overall greatness records?
Just overall greatness, whichever.
Of course, overall greatness. There's a strong chance that Connor could be a top 5 player all time by the time his career's done. He's that talented.
Yeah.
The game has changed so much, and scoring is much more difficult now than it was. Gretzky was the right player for the right era, and still the greatest of all time. But I don't think we're ever going to see 200-point seasons again. I mean, Mario Lemieux came close. He had 199, but he only got there one time. And if he couldn't do it, then there's very little chance anyone else will be able to, other than Gretzky. And I think we're going to see incredible numbers, though. I would not be surprised if McDavid has 150 points one year. when he's 25, 26, as he continues to improve, I think there's a real chance he could put up numbers like that. And, if everything goes right, maybe he gets close to 2,000 points. But with Gretzky being almost 2,900 points, like he's so far and away, no one will ever catch him. There's a lot of talk about Ovechkin potentially catching McDavid or catching Gretzky in goals, but there's no chance that anyone will ever catch him in assists and points. He has he's just so far ahead of everyone else, it's unthinkable. But you're right, in terms of impact on the game, I mean, if McDavid brings a cup to Edmonton, he'll be a god there. Like there's no doubt about it. He's already basically legend status in the city. He just passed Horkoff, shot Horkoff for 9th all time in Oilers points the other day. So he's at such a young age already in that category. It's phenomenal, my friend.
I don't think Gretzky would pretty much have very one off, and those. But I could certainly, he'll definitely be up there among top 5 end of his career. I just hope that it's. I hope that I'd like to see him. I know some of them are having rumblings and all this stuff about talking about trade. It's just people, but about trades and stuff. But I don't think they could afford. I don't think they could have. I don't think anyone could. It'd take one hell of it. But I hope he's in Edmonton. I hope he's on Oiler.
Career Oiler. I want him to be. I want him to be that too. And you know what? If the team wins a Stanley Cup, he probably will be. They've got 7 more years, including this one, to really prove it to him that this is an organization that he wants to stick with. But you have to remember, Connor has said time and time again he doesn't want to go anywhere. There's speculation out of Toronto with media there and bloggers that he wants to leave or that he's unhappy. They've been saying it since the moment the Oilers won the lottery draft 5 years ago. But this is a guy who has unbelievable character and dedication. He doesn't want an easy out. He wants to be a part of the solution. He has the drive to win a cup in Edmonton and to be successful. This is a guy who isn't looking for an easy out. He wants to make it happen in here. And when you have players like Connor McDavid, they always win cups. You look at Guy Lafleur, Bobby Orr, Wayne Gretzky, Mario Lemieux. Throughout all of hockey history, the great ones always find a way to get a cup or multiple cups. And I believe McDavid is in that class of player and that he will eventually have a ring too. So there's no doubt about that. I want to transition now, talk a little bit about Zack Kassian. He's been making headlines in Oilerland for about 2 weeks now. Did you get to see Turtlegate. Did you watch the Battle of Alberta that night? And what were your thoughts on the Kassian incident and ultimate suspension?
Did I watch? I don't remember because some games here, they sort of.
It's different time zones, of course.
No. Some games, it's not even that. It's some games are on like to the TV, and I can't watch them.
Okay,
till 48 hours, blacked out. Yeah, so I can't watch. And it's frustrating because
you've seen the highlights, though, right?
I've seen the highlight. I've seen the highlights, and.
So what was your impression of the incident? Did you think that it was a dangerous hit and Kassian had the right to stand up for himself? And did you think he should be suspended as well?
I don't think. I think it should have at least been a penalty on Tkachuk for that first hit. That was such a dangerous hit.
Way more dangerous. Agreed.
That was so dangerous. That I think it was pent up frustration, because this is what happens, Eric, when. And I see it over here sometimes. When when officials lose control of the game and they let things like that go unchallenged, then frustration builds up and people get frustrated and they do it. It just blows out of proportion and then you end up with players have to sort of take it upon themselves to police the game because I thought officiating in that game was
bad, and that's why.
Soros though. Soros says it was a clean hit. How on earth was that a clean hit? Do you know some of these penalties? Do you know if that had been done here, it would have absolutely, they would have thrown bucket him over in our league for that.
Well, we have to get those predatory hits out of the game, and that's one of the reasons why I think fighting can never fully leave the game. I mean, obviously there aren't the enforcers anymore who have one singular job, and that's to fight. There's that role is basically extinct in the NHL. But in terms of having players who can provide team toughness and stand up for their teammates when they get hit in a dangerous situation like that. You need that. And the Oilers have multiple guys who can fight. Darnell Nurse can fight. Kassian can fight. Jujhar Khaira can fight. There are guys who will stick up for their teammates and drop the gloves when they have to. And I mean,
we don't like toughness.
They don't at all.
I mean, we all have. They talk about like. I mean, I saw Eric Francis got a joke. So he's just the ultimate Homer, just trying to win curry favour with Flames fans because they were saying they didn't defend Tkachuk in that. But I just still saying Tkachuk, that Lucic and Kassian, they've clearly not been paying attention to what, because you get Lucic in a game against LA and Boston. He don't fight his buddies, does he? It's not on his track record. He's quiet in those. I'll be surprised doing that. But
for sure. And go ahead.
They were in it in the game last season on McDavid. I think it was Anaheim. I forgot. I don't know where Perry or they were in it in corner on McDavid where it could have been a checking from behind.
Yeah, there's always dangerous plays on corners, and that's one of the things that I hate. It's scary because you hate to see your star player get in those situations, but he's usually smart enough to outthink and outmaneuver those checks. But I guess
they could get killed for that. They could, if they're getting hit by an head, I mean that what I mean. Oh God, what would that hit that retired that player? I forgot what it were now. Oh, I don't know if he played for Colorado or something. But he ended his career. He had some. I forgot.
Oh, I know what you're talking about. You're talking about the Todd Bertuzzi incident, like 15 years ago.
Todd Bertuzzi. Yeah,
that was a dangerous play. We're not. I mean, that's even far and away even worse. But realistically, talking about this Kassian situation, if you're going to hit like that, you have to be prepared to drop the gloves. And I know that people out of Calgary have come to Tkachuk's defense, and I'll be the first to admit Tkachuk is an effective player, but he's also a dirty player, and it's going to catch up with him one of these days. I mean, look how many times he's pushed Drew Doughty in LA to the point where those two hate each other, swinging sticks at each other, cross-checking each other. It's vicious between those two. And Tkachuk's the villain in the Battle of Alberta, and maybe the Battle of Alberta needed a villain like that to re-engage it, but you don't want to see someone doing something where someone could get hurt, and he wasn't trying to make a play on the puck there. That was a hit for the sake of trying to hurt someone, and he did it twice. And he messed with the wrong guy. I'll give Kassian credit for having the restraint not to pound him the first time he did it, but the second time he knocked his helmet off, Kassian stood up, took a number, and just wailed on him. And I'm disappointed that it led to a power play and ultimately the Flames winning goal. But at the same time, let's be happy that he stood up for himself, even if he got a suspension. I wouldn't have been as disappointed in the suspension if Tkachuk got one too. So, but the fact that it was so one-sided, that really bothered me. And we're going to see what happens on the 29th when they have the Battle of Alberta again, because Kassian might be out for some redemption.
Looking forward to that.
Sorry, go ahead.
Just before doing. It's apparently Saros will be in stands. That's they'll clamp that. I'll never rip a player that stands up for himself when he's been. I mean, there's sometimes I get about ill discipline that costs it, but you've got to stand up for your teammates. This is the argument I have about Steelers, because sometimes some of those we haven't got someone who's tough that can stand up and just. You've got to stand. You can't roll over and just let them do those kind of it. A referee should stamp it out. If there'd have been a penalty or something, a ref would have gone to the box for at least a 2-minute or something. Then that incident might not have happened. It's the piss poor officiating in that game.
Yeah. Officiating has been an issue in the NHL for a long time.
It's here as well. It's atrocious.
And you can speak to the elite league in the UK a lot more than I can, only having seen, a few highlights here and there. But every game Connor McDavid deals with hooking and holding and plays that should be easy penalties that the refs either miss or look away, and it's frustrating because the Oilers could easily get 5 more power plays a game than they already do if they called every infraction on Connor, but they just don't. So that's something we have to live with. And, maybe the refs also think giving the Oilers the power play when they're so deadly with it, they would, they'd have almost an unfair advantage. But that, what, if they're going to make these dirty plays on Connor, then you have to call it. And I don't like the fact that they're getting away with penalties. And there's always also the rumor of veteran calls. Like, he's still so young. Maybe when he's 27, 28, he'll get more calls. You never know, but it's a shame the league works like that, or that in the playoffs they put their whistles away and just kind of let the guys. I mean, a penalty is a penalty. A penalty in preseason should be the same as a penalty in the playoffs. It doesn't matter.
It affects us, though. I mean, if McDavid, if someone, if a truck or someone on that throws a dirty hit at McDavid and it injures him, that massively.
That could derail the season. They could miss the playoffs because of one play, absolutely. And the Oilers do have a lack of depth, and when your best player and the best player in the league is out, that's a huge hampering to their chances.
That's the difference between playoffs or non-play or being down. It could really, you've got to stamp those dirty. I'm all for hitting in game and physicality, and I always like to see an end-to-end game. I don't like boring hockey, which is what it's been like here. But you've got to, you can't. I mean, it's specifically that he targets players that bothers me. Kachuk, it sort of targets, and he targets individual players. It's like whether it's and he knows how to rub and way. It's sort of like Avery, it's a bit like Avery, I used to watch Sean Avery years ago, and he used to do that. Piss me off.
Well, Sav, I've really appreciated having you on the show today. Thanks for joining me, and I want you to do it again. I think one last question. Well, you've been a great guest, and one last question I'll have for you is, do you hope to come out to Edmonton someday and see a few games, or is that something that's a little further down the line or on your bucket list?
It's definitely on my bucket list. I'd love to do it. It'd be fantastic. I'd love to, but yeah, I'd love to. But I mean, offers 2 ways, Eric. I can. Anyone's welcome to come to a Steelers over to Sheffield and check Steelers out. I'd love to do it. Yeah, I'd love to. I've got to, but.
Yeah, I mean, I'd love to see England too. My sister went there 5 years ago and talked about how great it was, and she loved visiting. Obviously, I mean, I have British ancestry, although they came to Canada about 110 years ago, so I don't really have much connection there anymore. But Leeds, yes, that's where my family is from.
So. It's just up road there, 30 miles.
Yeah,
it's really close to me. Yeah, Leeds is Yorkshire.
Oh, cool. So yeah, it would be great to kind of see where my family came from, but it's a place that I'll get to one day. Just haven't had the chance to be there. I went to Europe for the very first time just this past year. I was in Switzerland and France working a hockey tournament. So that was really cool. But the next time I come back, it'd be nice to do a little more sightseeing than just working an event.
Well, you asked about Germany earlier on. I didn't quite answer.
Yep, I got German family too.
Yeah. Germany, that's a more established hockey market. Also, as well, we get the UK. The Steelers players come from we've had NHL players, former NHLers, AHL, ECHL. We've got some players come from Europe. We had one that we've had a defenseman that's just gone back to playing Liga, which is the Finnish highest league. And he was really good. But it's more established. It's sort of more established there because it's got more tradition, longer than obviously the last 20 years. But we're a good league, Eric. It's a good league. Whereas we're obviously not on par with KHL, Sweden, Finland and Switzerland, Germany, and those leagues. because we can't compete with salary, with salaries and attract players, because they get sort of the higher end. We've only got but we haven't got the budgets. So it's not very much of a fair competition when we play, Champions Hockey League, which is the European competition that we play. Like winners of our league play teams in those leagues. So it's not very much. Mind you, we did beat an SHL team in one of exhibition games last season. But although it probably went best. But yeah, that's But it's a good league. It's not like a tin pot league or lower or more beer league or something like that. No pun intended, Kelly. Don't we? It's not one of those. But it's a good league, and we've got some really good players. Brian McGrattan obviously played for Nottingham Panthers. We'll get into that some other day.
Yeah.
Well, it's been good. Yeah. It's been good, great. Eric. Thanks. It's been great talking to you, and I'll definitely love to do it again.
Yeah, for sure. I just want to say it's great to see that the Oilers have such an international following. I know Oilers fans in Germany, England, yourself, obviously, one of my good friends in Australia who's also been on the podcast. So it's awesome that there's this almost global following for a small market team in Canada, and that's just great to see. And hopefully, like I said earlier, they can reward their fans with making the playoffs this year. So just for anyone who doesn't follow you, which I'm not sure there are many because you have such a strong social media presence already, where can people find you?
That. We'll have to talk about that next time.
Yeah, I love the way you connect with everyone, and that's something that I think really has made you a person who. You say the name Sam, and almost all Oiler fans know who they're talking about. But
because I've just took time to get to know people. I've just took time to get to know them. I've done them a long time, and they've all been great. I know them all individually. I know a lot of them, most of them individually, Eric, and they all know me because I do a lot of the background work on, on the DM front, and with a lot of them, and I know them all. I know them all. I'm not the best bunch, the best and most loyal, faithful bunch of friends and fans you could ever meet. Love all my Oilers fans. And he gave me a mention on his podcast. Man, if I plug one, my friend Tyler Campbell, TJ.
Yeah, go ahead.
On Twitter. Yeah, TJ. Yeah, it's Soups on Hockey. Check his podcast out. It's great. He do that, and obviously Oilers Live and. And I was live. I've got Michael's. I'm not seeing him do much podcast lately. But, I to everybody over there, and I'll love. Hopefully, do it again. Hopefully, you've made it to the end of this podcast.
Definitely.
Okay.
And where can people find you, though? The ones that don't follow you already.
At Twitter at the Oiler Brit. On Twitter, check me out. I've always got, always happy to talk hockey anytime. And,
for sure.
And all great. Thank you to everybody who already follows me.
Well, I hope everyone already follows him, like I said, because he's a great guy to follow and talk hockey with. So, all the best, Sam, and we'll talk again soon.
Definitely, mate. Anytime. All right. Thank you, Eric, for being my first one.
Yeah, that's great. We'll have you back. So for Sam Hargreaves, I'm Eric Friesen. This has been the 99 Forever podcast. Hargreaves.
All right, man. Yeah.
Maybe you know what I have. I know people in Saskatchewan who have the exact same name and they pronounce it Hargreaves.
Yeah.
So I may be using the Canadian,
it's all right,
pronunciation.
Mate, don't worry.
Give it to me again. Hargreaves? Am I saying it right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, Sam Hargreaves.
Yeah, I got to talk to my grandma's neighbors. They had that name. I got to correct everyone over here and say, you guys are pronouncing it wrong. So anyway, for Sam H, I'm Eric Friesen. This has been the 99 Forever podcast. We're out.